So again, welcome. I'm going to show you over the next 90 minutes lighting design using SketchUp. Any lighting designers out there?
Sort of.
Sort of, right? Yeah, we're all sort of lighting designers. That's kind of one thing I'll really kind of hit on. I don't really consider myself a lighting designer, but we'll get there. So again, my name is Daniel Brown. I own a website called SketchUpTrainer.com. I'm based in Philadelphia, and I do 2-day live SketchUp classes throughout the East Coast. A little bit of background about me. I have my Bachelor of Science degree in Architecture from UNLV in 2007. I then worked for Google as a SketchUp trainer. So while at Google, I taught SketchUp in conferences, workshops, things like that. After my contract with Google, I started DB3D, where I primarily do 3D modeling and consulting service for architects, interior designers, anybody who wants anything in SketchUp. I'm also an adjunct instructor. I teach a interior design course, well, a SketchUp course in the interior design program at NYU through the professional studies program, and at Harcum College, which is a college outside of Philadelphia, for a 15-week interior design course there as well. But most of my time is really devoted to training. I consider myself a trainer first and foremost. I make sure my phone's off. Okay, we're good. So again, I travel a lot teaching SketchUp. A lot of different users are using SketchUp, as we can kind of see in this room, and all of Basecamp. So it's really great to kind of see and really explore and leverage SketchUp as a design tool. So I always get asked the question, what do I do? And I always kind of like to say I wear a lot of hats. And I'm a SketchUp trainer, I'm a designer, I'm an interior designer, I'm a 3D modeling specialist, I'm a landscape designer, space planner. I do some event stuff as well, graphic designer. But in all, I really just think of myself really as just a problem solver. And really, SketchUp is great at just solving problems. So just some examples of some of the rendering work that I do, and then just kind of leverage into my sort of outline and overview for lighting design. So most of the projects I tend to do are rendering similar to this, starting with the existing CAD file, building it up, and creating photorealistic renderings. Anybody here attend boot camp? Awesome. Anybody attend my Podium session? A few of you? Awesome. So this, again, is a rendering done in Podium. And I use Podium a lot. Be sure to check out the presentation, I think, tomorrow on Podium as well. Also use a lot of Photoshop, not as much as Alex. He's kind of crazy in the amount of Photoshop he uses. I'm more of like a 5 or 6 layers kind of guy. But again, just basic architectural renderings, illustrations like this. Do also landscape work using geolocation, using site plans. This is a project in Philadelphia. There's a nonprofit organization called the Community Design Collaborative, where they get designers like myself together to offer pro bono design services. It's actually my local park too as well, in South Philly. But again, other kind of illustrations of rendering, and a lot of these you'll see really lighting is always kind of important in a lot of them. It's really, it really makes a SketchUp model that much better when you can do lighting right. It doesn't have to be completely accurate, which I'll get into, but just conveying lighting and quality is a really huge thing to do in your 3D models. I'm really fortunate to have a lot of great clients, whether they are students in my classes or students that hire me as a consultant later on to do 3D modeling work. And really, this presentation can't happen without Kroll Design. Jim Kroll is an award-winning lighting designer in Philadelphia. And really, all the work that I'm going to show you in lighting design is really the sort of brainchild of Jim. So he does a lot of church lighting, so custom light fixtures, but then also residential commercial elements as well. So we have a nice kind of working relationship where he gets to be the brains, and then I'll kind of throw it all in 3D as the young guy just plowing through in SketchUp. So lighting design is kind of a weird industry, right? It's a weird design, right? So you have to sometimes deal with the architect, deal with the owner, developer, GC, electrical engineer. And a lot of times as a lighting designer, we're only directed towards one or two of those. So we're making decisions, applying them to the architect, and then they're sending that to the owner. So sometimes it works well where you can have and coordinate with everybody, but other times you're also wearing those hats and you are being sort of the architect, the electrical engineer, the contractor, kind of conveying the right idea here, which is always a fine line, sensitive topic. So I'm going to go through a ton of examples today. And just note that the sessions are being recorded, so I'm going to go through these pretty fast. But some of it I'll demo as well. I don't want to sit up here and just present in Keynote here. I really want to kind of show you some of the processes in SketchUp. So some of those real quick, I'm going to show you how to do simple lighting graphics, so how to just really convey lighting quickly, how to use FaceMe Components, how to use Match Photo. Anybody use Match Photo in SketchUp? Awesome. But then more importantly and more recently, I do a lot more from SketchUp to layout. I used to never use layout 3-4 years ago, and now it's pretty much every project where I'm annotating or documenting something in layout. So I'll show you how to do quick model details, and then ultimately we'll go through a case study of one project in particular, sort of a start to finish, where I had the great opportunity to work over 2 years on this project of doing the initial site surveying, as well as all the way down to helping out with kind of the installation drawings and fabrication drawings. So the first example, and it's going to be more of a demo, is doing simple lighting graphics, right? So let me go ahead and open up SketchUp. And in SketchUp here, we have the SketchUp model from the architect. And as the lighting designer, we want to quickly show to the client. So this is more or less to convey to the client where we want light to be and really graphically how to illustrate that. So one way that you could do this, you could just kind of take this as an image, bring it into Photoshop and throw a yellow gradient and kind of create your light sources. However, those light sources move and change as the design changes. So there's a little trick that we've sort of created here where, let me open up the folder here. I usually create a PNG texture. So everybody knows that PNGs in SketchUp show the alpha transparency, so you can see through the image. So it looks very light up here because of the preview, but that's basically just representing a cone or a gradient there. For tape lighting, or like to wall wash something, I'll also do just a standard straight flat gradient. That way it will texturize and kind of drape around the whole piece here. So in the model, I didn't create this model from scratch. So first thing I always do is click around like crazy, just to kind of see, hopefully they use groups and components. We'll find out, right? So in this model is actually pretty good. The architects here, they create really good models. And you can see just within the components here, and I'm also using a little technique called hide rest of model. That way I can just see the active group or component that I'm in. So I'm just going to go inside of one of these components, and I'm going to add that image. So I'm going to add that cone image. So I'll just go up to File, Import, change my format here, all supported image types. Most importantly, though, I usually import as a texture. However, this is one of the rare times that I will import as an image. When you import as an image, it brings it in as an almost like a grouped object, but it's not. You can't enter inside of that until you explode it. But in doing so, there's actually a little graphics. I don't know if it's a glitch or not, but in this wireframe view here, everything else is white. So everything else in the model is white. We're actually on hidden line. But when I insert this as an image, it actually allows me to keep everything else white and this still yellow, or sort of the quality that we want here. And because I'm inside this component, we can take this image now and rotate it. And I imported it wrong there. Let me redo that. It's always good to be on the surface, right? So I'll just import this. This is really just graphically just trying to illustrate the information. So I'm just going to move that there. I'm going to move it out. I'm going to go back to my view here. So you can see right away, it's really starting to kind of convey some of that lighting. And then I can just take the scale tool and kind of pull this down, because that's realistically what the lightings would do here. So we can just kind of expand that out a little bit. And what's nice about that, as you walk through the model, a lot of times we'll create that onto a layer, and then we can just toggle that on and off, just to turn it off when we don't need it, turn it on when we want to just say, like, OK, here's where we want to throw light into the space. Same idea with the gradient there. So the light pattern here. So if I take this, oops, flip this around, and then I'll just scale that all the way across. So again, this is very yellow, and again, it's more graphic representation than what we would do. But a lot of clients that don't really understand lighting, this is a very simple graphic way of saying, OK, here's where we want to target light and really place it. That way, we're highlighting the architecture and not just throwing can lights in the space like this room here. So another way that you can use and leverage SketchUp is with FaceMe Components. If you're not familiar with FaceMe Components, they allow you to take a 2D image and have it always face the camera. More importantly, with FaceMe Components, you can have any of those light chandeliers, anything that's very hard and complicated to create, you can have it as an image and place it within the model. So again, I'll quickly demo here, just kind of showcasing that. And usually what I try to do, I found this chandelier for this rendering here, and I found this, this other chandelier here, or light fixture here. Little trick that I always try to do for file name is notice I named the name -6. So that 6 is the width, or the diameter of that. That way I know when I import it, it's going to import at 6 inches wide. So same thing with the chandelier. It's just a mental note for me to know that that's 31 inches wide. And then it'll scale up whatever the rest of it is. We want the rendering to look something like this in the end. So we need to place those as components into the model and make them a FaceMe component. So if I enter in the model here real quick, you can see there's already one here that's in the space here. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. And anytime you import an object like this, again, I'm just going to import as an image to start. I'll select that image. Again, it's 6 inches. And when you import images in SketchUp, the first click is setting the position. So I'm just going to try and make sure it's vertical. So I'll click once. And now, of course, I clicked off of it too fast. Let's try that again. There we go. So now as I move to the right, notice as I'm moving to the right, in the value control box, it's telling me the width. So right now I can just type in 6. Oh, move up a little bit. Type in 6 and press enter. So now it's going to have it accurately to scale. Let's move it up. Anybody know the distance it should be off the countertop? How much? 31? Sounds good. Works for me. I don't know. All right, so we have this here. It's still just a flat image. So what we can do is we can now make it a component. So we'll right-click and explode it. And then we'll right-click again and make it a component. Most importantly, though, so we'll name it 6-inch light. Most importantly, though, we need to set the glue to setting. So if this were to be a FaceMe component, or the component axis, I should say, it's going to pivot just from the right corner. So we want to set the component axes. And we're going to set it in the middle of the object here. Now, some users will also use the top of the ceiling as well. So you can always drag it down. But here, I'm just going to do this pretty quickly just so that it creates it from the center. Always replace selection with component. And most importantly, always face camera. So we'll click Create. There's already one in here, so I'll replace it. Or I guess I used the same name. So let me make that again. Set component axes. Set there. always face camera, and then click create. So now notice as I orbit, it's always facing the camera. So really great. I use this a lot, obviously for landscape work, for trees, for chandeliers like this, also for lamps, interior design work. You know, you don't want to build all the little entourage. You can always have that face the camera to do that there.
But why do you do that?
It renders much faster, and it's less information SketchUp needs to see. And plus, I don't want to have to 3D model that. I don't have the time. It's not in my fee. I'm just speccing it.
So is this a thing you've taken off?
Yep. You know, off of I think the chandelier was Restoration Hardware. This was, you know, Wayfair or Lowe's, yeah, Home Depot. Whatever the client can afford here. Right?
So in order to create a FaceMe component, it has to be just an image?
No, it doesn't have to be just an image.
Okay.
What is important, though, is that center point of the axes, because that's where it's going to pivot around.
Okay.
So before it was on the right side, so it would just kind of turn. It would look awkward. But yeah, I'll show you in another example. There's a component that has a bracket, and then it has a FaceMe image of just the fixture on the bracket. So the bracket's 3D, but the image of the fixture is not. Yeah. So give me a second here. SketchUp's just lagging a little bit. Probably have too much open. There we go. It's actually just my mouse. So again, we have this light in here. Notice though, when you make this as a component, see how there's still that line work around it? And also notice that the rod is still too short. It's not hitting the ceiling. So I'm going to go in and modify this component. And I'm actually going to go in here and draw just a little rectangle around the rod area of it. And we're just going to use a trick with scale. So we'll select this surface, use the scale tool, and scale this up until it touches the ceiling. And then if you wanted to put a little cylinder around it, make it look prettier, you can. We're not really going to see it in the rendering, so I'll just leave it at that. However, now you have a double line there, and it kind of looks crappy there. So another trick you can do is what's called hide hide edges. And with the eraser, if you hold down the eraser, hold down Shift, it doesn't erase the edge, it just actually hides it. So it's a little keyboard shortcut for hide. The other thing you could do is you could double click on the surface, hold down Shift, double click on the other surface, deselect the surfaces, and then go to Edit Hide to hide the edges. So it's really however you prefer hiding objects. There's not one right way or wrong way. So once you have those lights in there, I could show the other one with the chandelier, but you get the idea. You place that in here as a 2D image, and then that way, as you move this, as you make changes to it, it keeps the model very light. So again, you can see that in the last rendering here. Sometimes too, I will just do this in Photoshop. So technically, actually, this rendering, I sent the rendering, and the client was like, "Hey, you forgot the lights." So in Photoshop, I just Photoshopped them back in, but it's really, whichever you prefer there. So another way that you can use PhotoMatch, or another way you can do lighting is using PhotoMatch for interior spaces. So I know we had a couple raised hands for Match Photo users here. So this is a project with a client that has this nice little dining room space, and they have just the 3 little lights up there that really, they want a chandelier here or something that's going to make this look a little bit better. So what we can do is rather than modeling this whole space, sitting there and site measuring everything, we can use this photograph and just model directly from it. So I'm going to start a new document here, and I'm going to go to File, Import, and I'm going to select the image, so that image there. So any photograph, take it landscape, don't take it portrait, don't crop it or transform it in Photoshop or your image editor. Just take it right off, probably most of everybody, just off your cell phone will work. So take that image and import it as a new match photo. And a new match photo, we're basically back to drawing school, right? So any photograph that you try to measure to figure out the 2-point perspective, you take parallel lines to figure out the vanishing points. So we have our vanishing points, our origin point, and these yellow, the yellow horizon line, the green perspective bars, and the red perspective bars. So this photo would work a little bit better if I had more of the other axes here, but it'll still work here. So I'm going to set the axes into the corner there, and I'm going to tell SketchUp that this plane here is in fact my red axes. So I'm just aligning elements that we know are parallel to each other. So I'm going to grab a little bit of that trim there. And then for the green axis, it would be good if I had a little bit more of the photo in there, but it'll work for this exercise here. Pull this down a little bit just so that that's correct. And then I'll right-click, press Done. And now I'll just begin drawing. So I'm going to use the rotated rectangle tool. I'm going to draw up to the height and pull this all the way over in this plane here. So now all we have is just a proportional plane. And from this plane, we can right-click on it and project the photo. So we're projecting that image onto that surface. And from here as well, this file doesn't have any scale, and I didn't want to site survey it, but I did bring a tape measure, measured that the height of this was, I think it was 9 feet, but it's fine if it's a little bit bigger. So I'll take the tape measure here, measure it. It's not 74 feet. So we'll switch this to 9 feet, press Enter, and it's going to resize that. So now anything that I place inside of this is going to be to scale. So I'll also take the rectangle tool, kind of cut away this area, and then on the back side, it's a half circle, so I'll use the circle tool, pull this out. You'll feel it snap to that half circle, and then pull that up to here. And then just for this rendering, I'll also go through and just add a little bit more of the floor surface as well as the other wall surfaces here. So I'll add this surface here, and then I'm just kind of creating a little room for it. That way when I go back into Match Photo, I have the room now, or I have part of the room now. And then again, I can project these surfaces now as textures. So now as you orbit, it doesn't really work well because there's furniture in here, but at least at this view, at least as the scene that I have, I can model from this now. We have it to scale. We can take the tape measure and see that we have just about 15 feet in this space here. And if we actually go back, let's grab that light that we just had. Not that one. Kitchen. Nope. Come on, files. Try to only have one SketchUp file open at a time. So we're going to select this file here, copy it, and I'm just going to bring this into the new file, which is our untitled file here. And I'm just going to paste that into the document. I'll place it off the ground, and then I'll go back to this view and just kind of hide the edges, and now you can see at least that little light source there. If we want to move and copy another one, we can certainly do that there and add 3 here. So everything's in scale here, and again, that's just a quick little way that you can mock this up. And typically here, I'll kind of zoom in a little bit more and just kind of crop that view. That way, they're really just kind of seeing what they want here in that space. So again, just a quick little way that you can model that. Yeah.
So if I'm understanding right, the advantage of going that route versus the Photoshop route is that you can bring all of your fixtures in and they're going to be to scale.
Absolutely. Yeah. So in some cases, it can still be just a quick, dirty Photoshop job. But in other cases, especially when you're making changes to this, it's still it's an hour exercise or a 5-minute exercise. It's just very quick, and for this fee and this budget here, that's all it needed to be for the client to kind of figure that out. Now, another way that you can use Match Photo is for coordination. So similar idea where we're going to model the interior of a space, but it's a really complicated space here. So this is the Please Touch Museum in Philadelphia. Anybody ever go to Philly and see this? Yeah? A couple. So we're tasked here with lighting up the center tower space here. And inside that space, it's a very complicated truss structure that I had a hard time figuring out in plan. But if I have a good photograph, I can use that match photo and actually just build the scaffolding and the lighting that I want inside this space here. So I'm not going to demo this. I'm just going to show you the examples of this. So there's the image brought into PhotoMatch. The origin point was set here. You got your red axes and then your green axes on the other side. And then doing so, we can put our structure up and actually have that modeled. And those are the actual light fixtures that we want to use. So we either modeled them or found them from the 3D warehouse. And now we can create this little diagram here that really shows the catwalk, shows the structural elements, and then shows all the light fixtures to hit every little spot within that part there. So you can do a nice little close-up vignette or scene of this, and then put that all together onto a little page for that layout document. So in this layout document, you have the image inserted as a viewport, and the other two images inserted as viewports. So again, a quick, one day little exercise that conveys to everybody exactly what they're sort of getting and really how that's going to work. So similar scenario without match photo. This is a church here, Church of the Redeemer. And we need to uplight from the outside from these louvers here. So how to figure out how to A, put light there, and B, make it look pretty. So like anything, we don't begin in SketchUp. We begin either as a hand sketch or a trace. So this is Jim's chicken scratch here, which then some clients, we can give them that, and they're good and kind of understand what we want to do before we draw it up. But in a lot of cases, you want this to be a 3D model to make it look nice and clean. And that's the light that we're also speccing as well. You'll see here that we don't model the exact kind of detail of it, but enough to convey what that's going to be. So again, a layout document with the image as reference, and then all the context using a section cut through SketchUp to show the existing louvers, where the transformer is going to be, where the conduit in red is going to kind of bring down along the side and extend out for that fixture. And this all started from the CAD file, so this was just the basic CAD file that was brought into SketchUp, extruded out, cut away for the section, and then using Follow Me to create the conduit, and then just using the photos and kind of the dimensions of the product just to quickly model it as a fixture. So again, a pretty quick way that you can kind of illustrate an idea without having to invest a lot of time and technical sort of detailing in that. Now I know most of you are going to ask, okay, well, what about doing Lumen Analysis or actual light study? I'm not an expert on this, so I'll say that right away. But I will show you some ways that you can calculate foot candles and lux values using SketchUp with plugins. So in this example, this is the first floor of Old First Reformed Church in Philadelphia. So we built the whole model from the basic CAD file, put the pews in, put all the staircase and all the elements in. And the challenge with this space was the second floor had a lot of just recessed lights like this, and probably too many for the space. And we needed to illustrate that to the client other than just telling them that, right? So anybody use the plugin called LightUp? So a few of you? So LightUp I mostly use for animations because it does very nice, colorful animations. What is also nice about LightUp compared to other plugins is you can grab the IES data of that bulb or that light that you want to use and bring that into your SketchUp model. So on all the recessed fixture components, they also have the IES data. And then there's also a second plugin that will draw a grid, and then you can hover over those points and graphically show this as a mapping on your screen here. You can then take that SketchUp model and export it to programs that really do true analysis of lighting. So AGI 32 does that. So you can export your SketchUp file to AGI 32, and it will do more of your accurate light calculations. Speaking of LightUp, LightUp is good if you ever want to do backlighting. or having textures move if you're trying to show something animate. LightUp is a great little plugin that will actually showcase that. So this is the Philadelphia Flower Show in 2012, where we're trying to show rear projection screens with about 1,500 orchids through this little exhibit in one of the largest flower show exhibits. So this rendering here helps sell that idea so that they could actually do it in real life. And this is what it looked like. I tried walking sort of the same way as the rendering. Yeah, I tried a couple times. My wife was looking at me like, what are you doing? You look crazy. So again, LightUp is really just good at these kind of animations where you can make textures move. So like you can see the, stop there, but you can see the water move, or in that case, the texture above move as well. Anybody create custom light fixtures? Fabricate fixtures, right? So creating custom light fixtures is always a challenge. So we're receiving the existing conditions here, and now we have to place our light fixtures on here and actually really kind of create the look and feel for this. So a lot of times I'll take that original SketchUp model, bring it into Podium, and just kind of light it up with Omni lights and some of the presets that Podium has, just to kind of give a sense of, we want to put tape light up here to wash that. These are downlighting the sort of wall and washing the wall, and then the center lights have direct and indirect light there to kind of light up the space. So we'll have a model like this, but then also a close-up detailed model of that fixture. So this is a custom fixture using some standard elements just to create the light source that we wanted. So again, taking it from a hidden line, rendering it just to sort of soften it up, but more importantly, taking that to layout and annotating it. So in layout, we have the basic view here, we have the plan view, and this is really to help them kind of figure out, A, how to wire it and how it's going to sit in that truss system above the ceiling there. But then also importantly, it helped us kind of spec out for the dealer what we were actually purchasing and what was needed in that requirement there. So now the all kind of most challenging thing for lighting is wiring, right? Does anybody do wiring diagrams? All right, it's not fun, right? It's never fun. So I've been experimenting a little bit. Typically I would do this in AutoCAD. Sometimes I'd actually just do it in Illustrator as well, because I like the pen tool much better. But lately I've been using layout and actually doing a lot of layering to do all my runs and figure out all my lighting logistics for that. So this is a project outside of, probably an hour outside of Philadelphia, called Wybrook Farms. So it's a outdoor venue that this farm has for a restaurant, and they want this to be a nice little space that they can light this up. So we're tasked with creating a document for the architects that's going to show all the lighting locations, as well as help kind of figure out where seating is going to be, because lighting was really critical in kind of conveying and making sure the aisle seats had enough light and so on. So we'll take the existing CAD file from the architect here, take the sections as well, and then we'll begin and basically create a document like this in layout. So in this document, which it might be a little blurry for you guys here, I'll blow this up in SketchUp here. But again, you have all your light locations, you have all that information within the geometry, and even you can do sort of a quick little detail on the right of all your dimmer switches and sort of a diagram of how you want everything connected there. So if I go into that file real quick, just to let you see kind of how that develops. I'll close these out first. That's not yet, and that's not yet, or that. So let me go back one. There we go. So we'll take a look at the SketchUp file here. So a couple things. We have the fans there, so we're also required to work with the fans here. The issue with the lighting is in section, we didn't want these cable lights to be obviously higher than the fans. Otherwise, when people are sitting, they see the big, I think those are the big ass fans. So I'm allowed to say that word because it is a company. So you can see in section, you see the cable lights here, the cable lights going down there from truss to truss. These little rectangles here are representative of the tape lights. So it's more of just a graphic illustration of it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to see that if, the actual size of the little LEDs there. And then there was also a light here to throw up light on there. So in this SketchUp model, it's really basic. It's really simple. Everything's made of standard components here. So everything, as I modify it, as long as I make changes to one, it's making changes to all of them. So every time you approach a project, you should always kind of consider using those components. That way, in a bay like this, I only have to do one section of it, and everything else repeats. Also, too, we made a lot of changes to this. Before we had these big fans, and we had smaller little fans there. So I had to delete one because they were all components. And then in layout, just to give you an understanding of what that looks like in layout. Anybody use layout? A lot of you, awesome. So layout is really powerful when you can start to control your layers. In SketchUp, I'm a huge believer in not using layers. I try not to use layers at all, aside from just hiding CAD files and turning things off. But in layout, it is very critical to use layers. So I'll usually set this up. Let me zoom in on this so that you can see it a little bit closer as well. So a lot of times in a file like this, I'll start with just a basic default or viewport layer. So I'm just importing a hidden line view of the plan, straight down. And in some cases, you want two layers of information. So I'll do an opacity layer as a fill, just to kind of hide some of those elements. The good thing is I don't have to do this as detailed now, especially with plugins like Scalp, which really save a lot of time. And this was done before I started using Scalp for some of these elements here. From there, I'll draw just basically fills. So just using the rectangle tool, making it a yellow, and filling in and adding color back into that drawing. And then from there as well, just using the pencil and the pen tool in here, just to really kind of throw all your circuits and all your kind of connections. The only challenge I have for this is you have to draw each individual arc. It would be great if it was like a true spline tool or pen tool that you can just kind of do your little chain of lines there. But, future requests maybe. Right? So again, you can see pretty quickly and easily here how then you can dimension this. So our task was really just kind of understanding how much tape light we wanted to use, because they came in either 4, 8, or 10-foot sections. Make sure that was enough. Where we were placing transformers, where the jumper wire was, and just kind of conveying all that detail there. Any questions about that? No? Awesome. All right, so for the remaining part of this, I'm going to show you a really long case study here of one project. So this project here is called Trinity Church. It's in Princeton, New Jersey. Does anybody ever attend this church? Yeah? Do you know it well? No. Oh, okay. So it's right next to Princeton University. And this was the existing condition of the church. So as a lighting designer, we're really in the back end of things. So the architects were driving a lot of the design choices as far as fixing, polishing up the floor, adding elements, fixing some other adjacent spaces like the narthex and doing some other elements. But the lighting was really, really terrible. A lot of hot spots, just no real kind of, it didn't really light and highlight the architecture. It just kind of threw these really nasty light sources there. And this is what it looked like installed, post, and kind of the before and after. So quickly you'll see a change in the floors. The pews were all redone. A lot of the other architectural elements, but the lighting fixtures were all custom made. So I'm going to walk you through that whole sort of case study here. I also do 360 photography work. So every project that I begin, mainly because I don't want to go back to the site, I'll do basically like a Google Street View. So I'll take my Rebel camera, set up on a tripod rig, and use a couple programs to create basically this web environment. So not only is this effective to let the client know all the existing conditions, but also later where we're like, oh, was there a light there, or was there conduit going that way? Wasn't really sure. So these little interactive 360s are very quick to do and just help us kind of have a record of all that existing space. So again, you can see here, the lighting really sucks, right? So I'll show you what we've kind of done, what we did to make that much nicer. So again, like every other project, a lot of times we're beginning with that existing CAD file. And what's nice about this building is it's pretty much symmetrical. So I only had to model half of it, make it one big component, and then mirror it or flip it along the other side. That way, as I was making changes in one side, it was doing it into the other. And something like this, you'll see we're not really creating the fixtures to begin with. We're just having placeholders for them. But here, using Podium and using this section cut here, we're at least trying to start to begin conveying. And this is actually just straight out of SketchUp, this one. So instead of using the 2D gradient that I showed first, we'll actually create a big yellow cylinder and make it a 20% opacity, just to kind of show the angle and trajectory of some of that light, to understand also how we're going to layer some of the light within the space.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Are you using the light spread from the fixture from the bulb to
No. For this one, no. If we used LightUp, yes. But for this one, this was more just graphically showing and conveying that versus grabbing the IAS value and showing that actual light distribution.
But you're making some choices there of the narrow one and the wide one.
Yeah, so we're saying, these are going to be, pin 15 degree, it's kind of more knowledge of knowing this type of light is only going to spread, whatever amount it is. Yeah.
Maybe I've seen things, but it looks like your cones, because I would do the same thing, but it looks like your cones have a gradient. It might just be seeing it from back here, where it doesn't actually. Is it just a solid material with a opacity, or is there actually a gradient to it?
It's a solid material. That's actually.
So I was like, if that's what you're doing, I want to know how you
It is a gradient.
Far left when you cut.
Yeah, so it does lighten up here a little bit. So yeah, no, it is a gradient.
solids on mine, and those look a lot nicer.
Yeah, if you use the when you make that texture, so take that original texture, you can make it projected, and then really this is just an exercise in scaling that cylinder up and down. Yeah. So from there, and from kind of understanding some of those trajections, we'll now begin to kind of place these. And the most challenging thing with this was really calculating the height for all of the pendants here. So right now, in our initial setup, they were actually kind of a little too low and only kind of lighting up sort of the lower area of that model there. Also, we were looking at doing tape lights up here, so we're doing wash up and kind of actually making that architecture feel a lot brighter and better. So the first rendering here, this is all from the SketchUp model, and it's a little dark on screen, that's okay though. So using PhotoMatch, or Match Photo, to create some of the pews, but then also using the CAD file to create all the existing space. The pendants right now, they're higher than they are, so we've actually, I think we lowered them a little bit, but all it is just a circle, cylinder pushed down, and made it just sort of glow. That way, in this early on phase, the client had a good idea of that sort of rhythm that we were trying to create between every hammer beam. So once, and I'll show you the detail of the actual fixtures themselves, but once we sort of solidify the concept of the design and what that light fixture is going to be, so you'll see this light fixture here, as well as these ones here that are going to throw more light onto the space. Now, if we gave this to the client, if we gave this to the architect, they would get it, right, hopefully. So they would understand, yes, this is where we want the lighting, this looks great. But to the client, we want them to only focus in on the architecture or on the lighting. And a lot of times as a 3D modeler, and even when I was doing a lot of signage and wayfinding, we talked about everything but what we're actually supposed to be working on. So here, we have a meeting about lighting, so let's make them sort of focus on it. So if this is all a component, you can do hide rest of model. So view, component, edit, hide rest of model. And you can actually go to File, Export, and export this as a PNG. That way in Photoshop, I'm just going to layer this over and set the background a little bit lighter and sometimes desaturate it or kind of make it black and white here. This way, the client now is really focusing in on what matters here. Because also, we created the whole SketchUp model here, but that wasn't our task. Our task was with the lighting. So we didn't want them to focus on that and didn't certainly want the architects to say, like, hey, your model's out of date, or, what are you doing? We just want you to do the lighting. So this is kind of a quick way in SketchUp and Photoshop. You can kind of convey some of those ideas. Same thing, instead of in the SketchUp model, for the high altar pendants, it was a lot of detail to create. So these ribs here were very challenging to create using Follow Me or using solid tools. Yeah, that took a while to build in the SketchUp model. So instead of using that in this early on phase, because we had the high altar lights done, we just used the Google Street or the 360. We just took a snapshot from the 360, used that as our view, and then faded that out in Photoshop.
Did you use the camera match for that?
Oh, what did I do? So in the program I use for the panorama is called Pano 2VR. And in that, you can export out the exact focal length. So in SketchUp, when you go to zoom, you can set the exact focal length. So I also then tried to position myself in the SketchUp model at the same position as the 360. And I knew where I put those because I did a little plan and marked all of those out. Good question. So here, not only in creating the lights and specking lights, but then we're also creating custom light fixtures. So in this, we needed a drawing that we could give to the fabricator for them to kind of understand and how to build this. So we're dissecting all the pieces and then actually exporting one of these ribs so that then they could cut it out. So that was this little piece here was then selected out, exported as a DWG so that they could cut it out in their shop there. And again, just the simple dimensioning and annotations. It was also helpful in getting an initial quote. That way we didn't waste too much time going down a path where this is going to be too expensive. We got to redo the whole design. Same thing with the high altar. This was a little bit more decorative and complex. So we used and tied some of the cues from the pendants, but then wanted to create this nice little hat and elements on here to make it look a little bit prettier. So this model is actually one SketchUp model. It's just taking that component of that piece and then copying it over and expanding it out. So if we take a look at that, there's the expanded piece. And then, I can't remember why I flipped these for the plan, but those are the plan and elevation elements as well. Also, it's a hexagon. So as we created this certainly wasn't the first version of this. A lot of times we'll take this as a start and just move and copy and make unique, move and copy and make unique. That way you have 5 or 6 different versions, and then you can kind of select the one that works. So in this, we were messing around a lot with the quatrefoil and really how thick this was. So if we made this a component, it's kind of doing it to all of the pieces here. But then more importantly, you'll see each one of these sections here will react because they're also components as well. So take that, have that as the 3D model there, and then just do sort of an exploded view. Anybody do exploded views in SketchUp? So the biggest trick that I've kind of found is try to always move the objects in the same distance. So It's all visual, but each one of these is moved up 2 feet or a foot, whatever graphically that can be set. But then also, you'll see those viewports or scenes are created here to better help. No, that's not right. There we go. So to better help kind of set some of those views. So if we look back in that layout document, these are actually 3 separate viewports, and then the annotations are done there to convey those details. So from here, client really liked the light fixture. Client really liked the light fixture, and we needed to do a mock-up. So in the mock-up, we didn't want to build a true prototype. We wanted it to be really flat and cheap, so we wanted it out of foam core. And there's this great plugin called Unwrap and Flatten Faces. Anybody hear this plugin? Yeah. So this plugin, it works really well with simple objects. So the way that I used this wasn't the version of the SketchUp file that you just saw. It was a more 2D flat image of it. But what we can do is basically take that model and it unwraps it. So it just kind of flattens that out. And more importantly, with the cylinder here, it actually creates and unfolds all of that so that you can actually just cut that out of paper and then kind of roll it back up. So for here, I also included the hexagon of the top as well as the bottom just to give some support. And then set a top view as a scene, brought that into layout, set a custom document size for our plotter, so 24 or 36 by however long that we needed, 72 or 60 inches. And then just cut it out, spray mounted it, cut it out again, and then just wrapped it all together. That way you could actually take it up and hang it. Unfortunately, I don't have a picture of the mock-up, but yeah, bummer, right? But again, you get the concept. It's a very simple idea just to kind of wrap this. So again, those were the 2 layout documents. We didn't print out the cylinder in red just because we don't want to eat up all that ink. So yeah, that was that. So now the most challenging part with lighting, coordination. So it's as you can see, it's a very complicated church. It's an old building. And in traditional fashion, you'd have a plan here and do little details and call-outs for all of those elements. But honestly, I have no, and it's hard to see on screen here, but I have no idea what that call-out or detail means in plan because I can't really see it in elevation or section either. So what we'll do in the SketchUp model is we'll create vignettes. So there's a bunch of scenes here. I'll go into the model here. Let me turn off the section cuts. Oh, I'm in the group, that's why. Never mind. There we go. So there's the SketchUp model, more detailed. But then there's a lot of these very unorganized scenes. So try to organize your scenes. I should have done a better job with this. But note that I have what's called detail 1. So that was the cove light in the narthex. Detail 2. So that's our second light location that's showing where the boxes are and where those fixtures are. Detail 3. Same idea, showing the pendant. Detail 4, just showing the lights on the hammer beam. Little trick here, actually. If I go to Windows Styles, so anybody use a curved surface and then is upset in this hidden line view that you don't get the line work around your profile, right? Drives me crazy. I hate profile edges, so I don't want to use profile edges. But what you can do is, so typically it looks like that just in hidden line, right? So I can't see the definition or the outline of that object. However, if I go into Windows Styles, go in and modify that style, I'm going to turn on the profile edge, and I'm also going to change this to either 1 or 2. So we kept this to 2 just to kind of pop it out even more because of the drawing. but typically I would leave this to 1 and just keep it nice and clean. Another style profile to adjust. Does anybody ever have issues with transparency, where objects look like they're bleeding through the model, but even though they're in front, so like a PNG image? If you go into the face style here, see how I switch this? By default, this is set to faster, whereas when you set it to nicer, it's going to look better. So you may have saw in that first exercise that I did with the cone, it looked like the cabinets were actually in front of some of the elements. That will fix that and kind of make it nicer. So all of these details are vignettes. They're scenes so that we have the site locations or the light locations that we want to place. And what's nice about doing this as a layout document is it's linked to the SketchUp file. So as we make updates and change some of the details, we can just relink the SketchUp file, just update it. So throughout the process here, we've changed some of those details. We've deleted some. So that deletion was just an overlay or a fill in layout, and then typing the word deleted. But just a close-up of one of those details. This was really, really valuable for everybody for the project. Really kind of understanding where the fixtures were going to go, where we needed to place the junction box, where existing chases were coming into, and kind of putting that all together in one sheet for the whole building. So that whole document was just that one sheet. Last thing, or two last things here, are the mounting. So the mounting of the pendant was on the hammer beams. So on the right here, you'll see that hammer beam as a separate SketchUp file, and then all the annotations and notes. So this was for the installer and for everybody to actually wire it correctly, which is fun. But again, that all gave all those little details for there. For the high altar, remember in the high altar those ribs? So for here, we had to explain how to create a collar that we could anchor to it. So that's this collar here. How the wire was going to chase down, so that's just the pen tool in layout. And then the dotted line and the wires here are in layout as well. So all that sort of basic SketchUp model, and then using your annotations and labels in layout to convey that idea. Same thing with just doing a section cut elevation for the mounting heights. That way they were done correctly. So with that, I'll also end and show you the 360 of the final here. So a much better sort of change compared to the existing. And a lot of the architecture obviously was certainly improved. The hammer beams were all painted to look like wood instead of that really nasty milk chocolate color that they were. Yeah. Very subtle little detail, and it's very hard to see there, but there's 4 little MR16s right above here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That just really highlight when the priest is presenting there. It's a pretty cool space, really cool project to work on. This was a project that I think start to finish was about 1.5 years to complete. But again, just a really for me, it was a great way to leverage SketchUp and show all the different possibilities and ways to kind of annotate and really just problem solve the lighting with it. So I'll open up to some general questions that you might have. Start here. Oh, sorry. Yeah,
in the elevations, you had those yellow cones.
Mm-hmm.
But in the actual pictures of it, you don't see it as yellow. Was the yellow just illustrated?
Yes, it was just illustrative. It was all just to kind of convey to the owner kind of where we wanted to place fixtures. Sorry.
The 360 view plugin or a plugin, but it's for your camera.
Yes.
What was that?
Okay, so I use, it's really like 5 programs, 4 almost. So I have a Rebel, it's not an XTI, it's a newer one now, thankfully. But it's an 8mm lens, and it sits on a Noodle Ninja rig that will click every 90 degrees. So you take 3 bracketed exposures in portrait, 3, 3, and 3. So stitch that together as a HDR in PhotoMatch. Send that to PTGUI to actually create one image as a panorama. And then take that to Pano2VR so that Pano2VR can tell, okay, at this hotspot, go to this panorama and stop here.
I'll send it to you and you can do it.
Yeah, that works for me.
Devices now that
Yeah, so
it's like 200, 300 bucks.
yes, so they're okay. So the challenge with those is they're only 2,000 pixels, whereas this vertically is 6,000. So I can zoom in here and look at a detail in pretty good accuracy because it's really high res. So that's the difference between that and some of those cheaper alternatives. You can also, just for like residential stuff, we'll do Street View, Google Street View app. It has now, you can create your own photosphere. So that's a good alternative just to do a quick one. Charles?
When you use that node ninja, how do you deal with the whole?
Oh, so the trick is it's an 8mm lens. So the only spot is just the tripod down below. And the way that I fix that is through Pano2VR. I just actually limit it so that you can't look all the way down. So I'm stopping it at whatever degree here is.
Yeah, first I'm definitely going to find you sometime outside of this classroom and go over that with that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
You got a chance.
Sure, absolutely.
And the other question I had is, you showed AGI early on in the.
Yes.
When you're exporting your SKT into AGI, is that bringing IES data from your LightUp?
I don't know. I don't do it. I outsource it. So usually we give the project to another gentleman who only does AGI exports. So he just takes the model and.
He could be bringing in the IES data from the pictures that you guys are making.
Yeah, because they're all components, yes. I'm not sure if he's just swapping those or if he's actually just moving, relocating them.
Because you have components in there in the SKT, so you can just know where it's located.
Yeah. Yep. Mhm.
Oh, how did you make those pendants glow again?
Which,
Let's sketch up the file. These I just made
This is
glow.
the preliminary pendant.
oh, yes. This one, right?
Yeah.
Podium. So yellow cylinder, 60% opacity, add a light value to it, make it glow. Or, a little Photoshop too, maybe. So sometimes making things glow and appear more, to be more gradient, I'll go back through in Photoshop and just do a dodge and burn. Yeah. Did you have another question?
Oh, I was asking about the gradient. You had described two of you linked in and said, oh, yeah, exactly. And I missed what, how to create the gradient of the yellow cone.
Oh.
It starts and fades.
Let's see. Let's see if I can create it real quick. So I'll import the image. I hope this works. So I'll import it as an image, or no. It's usually better to import as a texture first. So let me do rotate a rectangle, draw this up, import. Oops, first folder. As a texture, light gradient. All right, so we have that, right?
Right.
It's a complete fill, so you can't actually see through that yet. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find the center of that, draw my cylinder, scale the top of this, maybe in a little bit more. Whoops. Like that. Take this texture. I'm going to modify it because I want the opacity to lighten, so maybe 70%. But more importantly, I'll make this as a projected texture. It's going to look a little wonky around the sides because it's projected, but it'll at least keep it nice and straight. So if I go to texture, make it projected, I can then sample this and apply it onto that surface.
So the original PNG or the yellow square, that has the gradient.
Yes, it's a PNG, yep. So notice if we look at it.
I guess the question is, how do you get that gradient?
Oh, Photoshop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So take the yellow, fill in Photoshop, create a rectangle, and just gradient, export out as a PNG. The trick here is make sure you delete that bottom surface as well. Any other? Yeah.
LightUp, you showed moving textures. Was that moving textures or videos?
Moving textures.
Okay,
So LightUp has a feature where when you're in LightUp, so LightUp when it oops, sorry about that. I'll just let it play. That texture is one big texture that's wrapping. The trick though, see the guy in the scuba gear and the turtle? Those are just flat images that are told to move along a plane. And I just crop them or clip them so it looks like it's going off screen.
but that's all done in LightUp.
All done in LightUp, yep.
Oh, wait, to answer the question on the 360, at work we use a program that's it's called Bubble Up. It's basically a plug-in for your phone,
Oh, okay.
and that's what we use. I'm sure it doesn't have the same resolution,
Right.
but it works fine.
Awesome. So last thing, thank you all for sticking around with me today. My email address, and I put some business cards as well on some of the tables. There's some in the back, and certainly come grab me anytime today or tomorrow. I'm also doing a modeling from CAD data in SketchUp tomorrow from 3:15 to 5 o'clock. So that's a hands-on workshop. So if you have your laptop, bring it. We're going to model a 2D CAD file and go through a workflow of bringing it up in SketchUp.